This is the Savvy Investor radio show and podcast. For help with your retirement, schedule a 15-minute phone conversation with the team at ProStatus Financial Advisors today. Just call 866-597-1040 and at thesavvyinvestorradio.com.
Welcome back to the Savvy Investor Radio Show and podcast with the team at ProStatus Financial. Mike Canet and Ryan Herbert with me here once again as we talk through some of the issues of retirement. We usually have some fun doing it. And guys, I want to ask you this. Mike, has anybody come up to you and they talk about what they're watching on TV and you go, well, I'll give that a try. And so you sit down with the wife and you watch it and you go, I don't get it. Everybody's talking about this. I don't get it.
On more than one occasion, yes.
Okay. Ryan, same thing with you?
Absolutely. Whenever my wife says, oh, somebody said we should watch this show, I always ask who it is because I know if it comes from certain people, I'm not going to watch it.
Right. Cringeworthy.
All right. Well, the same thing happened to me when everybody was talking about the Broadway show Hamilton. Everybody was talking about Hamilton. And Hamilton just celebrated their 10-year anniversary. They've made $1 billion on that show. And that show finally came on TV. So I said, good, I don't have to go to New York to see it. And when it did, I sat down and watched it with my wife, and I felt the same way that this comedian did as he sat down.
So this thing starts. 10 minutes into Hamilton, I tap my wife. I go, I got no idea what's going on. I couldn't understand it. I didn't even know what Hamilton did. I went to this play to find out why this guy was so fabulous. And you got to understand something about my wife and I. We are dumb. I'll tap my wife. I go, you know what's going on? She's like, no, you? Nothing. Like, no. Like, we just sit there. Dumb.
Dumb and dumber. All right. I felt exactly the same way. And sometimes what people tell you is great might not necessarily be so. Mike, you've given us many stories about this. Somebody sits down with a financial advisor. They say, do this. They sit down with a tax advisor. They say, do this. So you do that. And then you get a second opinion, like at ProStatus, and you look at them and say, why did you do this? And they say, because that's what they told me to do. And I just went along with it, like you go along with everybody else that says this is great. A lot of times it's not that great. Let's talk a little bit about that. How would you know, Mike, if it was right or it wasn't right?
Well, I don't think you do know until you actually meet and sit down with somebody who truly understands it, right?
Mm-hmm.
A prime example of this, early last year, we were sitting down with somebody that they had caught a podcast of ours, and we were talking about businessmen selling their business, and he had a wharf. He had a marina that he was selling. And he was almost into the position where he was signing the contract. Thankfully, he came to us before he actually signed the contract, but he had done all his due diligence. The buyer was solid. He had talked to his CPA. He had talked to a second CPA that was a tax professional that knew even more. He had talked to his financial advisor, and they had worked out all the deal. I mean, it was a $40 million transaction. He had almost zero basis because he had been depreciating stuff for so long, and basically his tax people told him that he was going to lose better part of 40% of this, 23% to the IRS for capital gains, and almost another 10% to the state of Maryland. So, 33% of it. And then because of Irma and some other things, he ended up losing about 35% of this to taxes when it was all said and done. And so he's thinking to himself, he's writing a check for better part of $15 million. And Ryan and I sat down with him, and the question we asked him is, with this other $25 million left over, are you spending it? Are you going to go take this money and go spend it immediately? Or are you going to just kind of like invest it and diversify and maybe use it for income stream? And at the end of the day, he needed about $300,000 worth of income. And we asked him, why are you agreeing to pay better part of $15 million in taxes if you're not going to spend it all at once, right? If you're not going to spend all $25 million, why would you pay tax on any of it? Why wouldn't you arrange your affairs to only pay tax on the portion of the money that you're going to actually use, right? And he looked at us like we were dumb because he had two CPAs and a financial advisor. And this financial advisor was at one of those big names. They do public offerings. $1 million minimums. They're a big name in this industry. And all of them just set it up to say, yeah, go pay the tax bill. Go pay the tax bill, take the money. It's simple, it's easy. And it was. It's simple, easy. The easiest thing to do is sell it, pay your tax, call it a day. The problem is is that the $25 million left over was going to cause a tax bill every single year. He was going to lose almost $15 million to taxes right off the top. And what Ryan and I did is we designed a plan that said, look, we're going to take a portion of this to create some income stream because you need some income immediately. So we're going to take a portion of it. We're going to put it into what's called a 1031 exchange. But we wanted to add a different twist to this 1031. The 1031 allows us to not pay tax on part of the real estate. That was all well and good. But we also wanted to not pay tax. We also wanted to be able to get our money out of the 1031. So we did what was called a 721. So we did a two-part step. We got to sell part of it, didn't have to pay tax on it, got some income. About 50% of it was tax-free. We took the bulk of it, the balance of it, the biggest portion of it, and we put it into a very specific type of trust. Put it into the trust allows us to sell it 100%, pay zero taxes. So he didn't have to send $15 million. As a matter of fact, he got to use that $15 million to produce income and to pay the fees to the stupid lawyers that are charges out to wazoo. But he got to keep the $15 million for him to use, and that $15 million was going to produce more than enough income because you only needed $300. That $15 million was going to pay more than enough income, so they never actually had to touch the other $25 million, and that could all be invested in such a way that it eventually goes tax-free to his heirs. And the crazy part about this is that it took him just flipping through and hearing a podcast. I mean, just by happenstance, he heard a podcast about us talking about business tax planning and selling a business, and he said, well, I got to listen to it. We saved him over $15 million in taxes just by sitting down and creating a very basic, simple tax approach. And I think the biggest part about it for him is that his CPAs did not provide the solution. And as a matter of fact, his CPAs, when he took it back to his CPA said, no, you can't do that. It's called a listed transaction. And we actually had to get on the phone with the CPAs and said, explain to us how this listed transaction worked. And they went through like the 10 items that qualify as listed transaction. And as they're going through these 10 items, item number 1, this makes it a listed transaction. Yeah, that's true, but we're not doing that. Item number 2, well, this makes it a listed transaction. So as we get through 10 of these items, we're not doing any of those items. We're not a listed transaction. But because you don't understand taxes, because all you really are is a historian putting numbers on a page, your recommendation is this guy cuts a check for $15 million. Our recommendation is keep the money for yourself, use it, pay tax when you actually use it, but use it for yourself. It's a no-brainer. You get to choose how to arrange your affairs to pay the least amount of taxes legally possible. You should always arrange your affairs. And unfortunately, most people just go with what's comfortable. They don't want to take the extra step.
There's 75,000 pages in that tax code, and there's probably more addendums. It probably goes up to 100,000. Do you know them all? Probably not. Does your CPA know all of them? And you may think they do, but according to Mike, there are situations where they don't. So how would you know? You got to get that second opinion. We would love to be that second opinion. Let's see what Mike and the team can come up with when it comes to taxes with your retirement planning. Use our website, thesavvyinvestorradio.com. And Ryan, I know that as you sit down initially with people, you have that meeting where you sit down and put all the papers out on the table, and sometimes it's glaring right there. You have missed an opportunity to save money in taxes. It's not so much, hey, I missed another % in the market. It's you're way overpaying in taxes here.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically people just, kind of like you said, it's just going along with whatever they're told. And, whether it's taxes like Mike talked about or with investments, you're putting your faith and trust in this person for them to look out in your best interest. And, you don't know if it's in your best interest or not until you get a second opinion. A number of years ago, I had clients come to me, Ed and Terry, and Ed recently passed away about a year ago. And their kids came into the office and they asked me, why did you sell mom and dad all of these annuities? I think they had like 12 different annuities. Why'd you sell them all these annuities and this life insurance policy? And I said, well, that's, let's take a step back. I didn't sell them to them. I just took over so I could help manage them. And I was explaining the process of what I discovered when they first came to see me. They were working with another gentleman who was an insurance salesman, listing himself as a financial advisor. And what he had convinced them to do was when Ed had retired from Northrop Grumman, he convinced them to take, he had about $1.9 million in his 401k. He convinced them to take $1 million of that money and put it all into an annuity. Then what he did after the next year was he did a free withdrawal of 10% of that $1 million annuity to get $100,000 out. And then every single year, and they were working with him for about 8 or 9 years, every single year he would take a free withdrawal from the big annuity and go buy another smaller annuity. And then from the smaller annuities, he'd take 10% free withdrawals, combine that together, and then go buy life insurance. And then with that life insurance policy, he was taking loans against the premium every single year and turning around and putting money back into an annuity. So he was essentially just moving money around from one annuity to another under the guise of this is all for income, this is all protected money. Meanwhile, they weren't taking any of the income on the policies. They were spending the other $800,000-$900,000 that they had left outside. So when they came to me, they were like, hey, we don't have enough money outside of these policies. We need to figure out a plan. And so what the plan we ended up doing with them, I explained essentially what was happening, how he was making this all work. And they were just kind of in shock that, he's supposed to be looking out for our best interest and he's just kind of moving money around all these things. We thought this was for our best interest, but really it wasn't. They were just going along with it. So the process for me was trying to unwind, get them out of a lot of these annuities. Some of them I was able to get them out of, others that, the penalties were just too great. And, at the end of the day, it really created this nightmare for Terry to have to deal with when Ed passed away because they had money in all these different places. The kids were trying to figure everything out.
Well, and if I remember correctly, every time he would take money out of an annuity to go buy another annuity, he had to pay tax on it. Mm-hmm. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was the darndest thing. One of the most extreme situations I've seen to this day, but it's one of those things that sticks out that you're putting your faith and trust in an advisor, and most people are just going to go along with it. You deserve to have a second opinion on your financial plan. I encourage you to visit our website at thesavvyinvestorradio.com. Right at the top of the page, schedule my call without ever having to pick up the phone. Sit down with Mike, myself, and our team. Get a second opinion on your financial plan, good, bad, or otherwise. You can also give us a call, 866-597-1040. That's 866-597-1040.
If you have an advisor, if you have a CPA, it's time to check the checker. We talk about things here that I'll bet your advisor or your CPA is not talking about. Why don't you give the team at ProStatus Financial a look, give them an opportunity to look at what you got. What is your strategy going on right now? If you have somebody that you're working with right now, let's check the checker. If you don't have anybody that you're working with right now, give ProStatus a call. Let's start from scratch and build that retirement plan and make taxes a real key part of your retirement planning. If you've saved $500,000 or more for retirement, this is where you're going to really see the power of planning really kick in. Here's our number. Here's our website, 866-597-1040. 866-597-1040, or use our website, thesavvyinvestorradio.com. Click on the button there that says schedule a call, and you'll be on your way. That is all the time we have this week on the Savvy Investor Radio Show and Podcast. Guys, I'll give you the last word. Ryan, we'll start with you.
This is Ryan Herbert. Thank you so much for listening to the Savvy Investor Radio Show and Podcast.
This is Mike Canet. We'll see you, the Savvy Investor, next week.
Advisory services offered through ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, a registered investment advisor. Insurance licensed in Maryland. ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if ProStatus Financial Advisors Group is licensed in your state, please call 410-863-1040. ProStatus Group, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through representatives of ProStatus Financial Advisors Group.